everyone, welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Hem Korsara. And on the show today, in the latest in West Asia, Hezbollah has confirmed the death of Commander Ibrahim Mohammad Qubaisi in an Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. This as tensions continue to soar in the region. The question is, how will things pan out going forward, and how will this impact the prospects of a peace deal in Gaza? We will explore this and more on the show today.
Also on World DNA today, in Sri Lanka, the new president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, has called for a snap parliamentary election on the 14th of November. Just moments after the president dissolved the 225-member parliament, the election comes a year ahead of schedule. We will be tracking those developments and what it means for Sri Lankans and the world. Let's get you started with the headlines.
Hezbollah announces death of commander of its rocket and missile division in Israeli strikes. Lebanese authorities say 6 people killed in latest strikes targeting Beirut suburbs.
Nearly 500,000 people displaced in Lebanon since Israel ramped up its military campaign against Hezbollah, says Lebanese foreign minister. At least 569 people, including 50 children, killed so far.
Placed. Full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible.
US President Joe Biden warns against full-scale war in West Asia, urging leaders to find diplomatic solutions in both Lebanon and Gaza.
US President Joe Biden meets Muhammad Yunus in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Offers full support to interim government in Bangladesh.
Sri Lanka's President Anura Kumara Dissanayake dissolves parliament, calls for a snap parliamentary election on the 14th of November.
Voting underway in India's Jammu and Kashmir for the second phase of assembly elections. Security tightened across all 6 poll-bound districts in the Union Territory.
Shanjunjang beats Olympics bronze medalist Lorenzo Musetti to win the Chengdu Open. 19-year-old is the second player from China to win an ATP Tour singles title. Well, our top story on World DNA this morning, the political landscape of Sri Lanka. It's changing and rather swiftly.
Well, the island nation's new president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, has called for a snap parliamentary election on the 14th of November. The development came late at night, just moments after the president dissolved the 225-member parliament. The election, which will now take place just weeks from now, comes a year ahead of schedule. Following the snap poll's mandate, Dissanayake has also ordered that the new assembly will hold its first session on the 21st of November. Dissanayake's JVP party only had 3 seats in the now dissolved parliament.
The development comes after Dissanayake picked his prime minister and also announced his new cabinet.
Harini Amarasuriya has been chosen for the Prime Minister's post. It is after 24 long years that Sri Lanka has a female Prime Minister. The sociology professor was first elected to Parliament 4 years ago. She is known for her activism on gender equality and minority rights issues.
This brings us to the cabinet. AKD will be leading the smallest cabinet in Sri Lanka's history. far reduced from the former cabinet that had 17 members. The JVP only had 3 lawmakers in parliament till it was dissolved. All portfolios had to be divided among the elected lawmakers, and this includes the president himself, the prime minister, and 1 more lawmaker, that is Vijita Herath.
However, it remains to be seen if voters grant greater representation to the JVP-led NPP alliance in the upcoming snap polls. Should that happen, Dissanayake will be able to further allocate portfolios to leaders that win the November 14th election.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by correspondent Dasuni Athauda on the phone line from Colombo. Thank you so much for joining us, Dasuni. The elections will take place a year ahead of schedule. What should Sri Lankans be bracing for at this point?
Well, Raisha, this was expected given that Anukumara Dissanayake would be president. It was something he had campaigned for very clearly during the run-up to the presidential campaign. What this means now is that political parties in Sri Lanka have to swiftly move towards campaigning for yet another election, this time to secure their own seats, which is quite different than campaigning for one single candidate. Like you rightfully mentioned, the JVP or the NPP at the moment only has 3 parliamentary seats. So this election will really show how the people will be voting for the NPP and what that increase in number of seats would look like in parliament, because you must have or command the majority in parliament after such an election in order to govern smoothly. Because in previous instances, we have seen in the event the president does not garner the majority or the confidence in parliament, it becomes a hung parliament and governance becomes extremely tough. So that is the challenge that the NPP has, to increase their seats from 3 seats to at least above a good 50 to 60.
Thanks, Dasuni, for getting us the latest. Of course, there will be a lot of action taking place at least till the 14th of November to begin with, and we will be tracking that with you closely on ground. That was Dasuni Athauda getting us the latest from Colombo.
Address to the nation.
Myanmar's ruling junta has intensified its strikes across the nation. In the latest spate of bombings, junta's air force struck Myanmar's rebel city of Lashio.
Now, as per local media reports, junta used highly destructive 500 lb bombs against civilian targets in ethnic rebel-held Lashio. The strikes claimed the lives of civilians and injured dozens of people in the city. Hotel buildings, civilian houses were destroyed in the airstrikes. The Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, or the MNDAA, which recently reclaimed Lashio from the junta, called on the Chinese government to resolve Myanmar's conflict on the 4th of September. Since then, Myanmar's military has conducted 4 aerial bombardments of Lashio city and 2 more airstrikes on civilian targets in MNDAA territory in northern Shan state. The continuous airstrikes follow the military junta's designation of the MNDAA and its allies, the Tang and National Liberation Army, that's the TNLA, and the Arakan Army, that's the AA, as terrorist groups in early September.
Meanwhile, head of the Catholic Church has called for the liberation of Myanmar's detained former leader and Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. Pope has offered to give refuge on Vatican territory to Myanmar's detained former leader. Suu Kyi was detained by the military since it overthrew her government in a 2021 coup. It is unclear where the hugely popular 78-year-old is being held or if she has been allowed any visitors.
All right, let's shift our focus now. Hezbollah has confirmed the death of Commander Ibrahim Mohammed Qubaisi in an Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburbs.
Lebanon's health ministry said that the Israeli raid on Ghoberi in Beirut killed 6 people and injured 15. The Israeli military said that Hezbollah commander Ibrahim Mohammed Qubaisi headed several rocket units, including a precision-guided missile unit, and he had close ties with senior Hezbollah military leaders as well. Israeli army claimed at least 2 other commanders from Qubaisi's force were also killed in the strike. Video showed the area destroyed by the impact of the Israeli strike on Tuesday. Israel's offensive in Lebanon since Monday has killed 569 people, including 50 children.
Meanwhile, Israeli military said Hezbollah fired approximately 300 rockets at Israel on Tuesday as Israeli warplanes pounded weapon sites belonging to the Lebanese armed group.
Today, approximately 300 rockets were fired at Israel, injuring 6 civilians and soldiers, most of them lightly.
Images released on social media on Tuesday showed the Israeli Iron Dome defense system intercepting rockets fired by Hezbollah over the Galilee town of Safed. Hezbollah said it fired some 50 rockets at the Dado military base in northern Israel, among other targets.
The Israeli military did not confirm whether the base was hit. It said sirens were sounded in Safed, where Dado is located. Police recovered the remains of one rocket that hit a house in nearby Rosh Pina.
Furthermore, a day after the United States said it was exploring some concrete ideas with allies and partners for de-escalating the conflict in Lebanon, Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon said that Israel is not eager to start any ground invasion and prefers a diplomatic solution.
We are not eager to start any ground invasion anywhere. I don't want to send my son, and we don't want to send our boys to fight in a foreign country. But we are determined to protect the civilians of Israel.
As tensions between Israel and Hezbollah escalate, Israeli authorities have cancelled Haifa Day tribute.
The event, conducted every year by the Indian Embassy in Israel, was supposed to be held on Monday. The annual event, it's a tribute to Indian soldiers who sacrificed their lives to liberate Israel's coastal city of Haifa during the First World War. But the latest escalation between Israel and Lebanon-based Hezbollah group, it's prompted Israeli authorities to implement cautionary measures in the port city and other border settlements.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi had previously paid a visit to the Indian War Cemetery in Haifa back in 2017. He was accompanied by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
And Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has accused Israel of creating a wider conflict in West Asia.
In his first ever speech at the UNGA, Pezeshkian called upon the international community to end the barbarism of Israel in Lebanon. He also urged them to bring about a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
We have been siding with people across the world who have flooded the streets in outrage against the Israeli atrocities. We condemn the Israeli crimes against humanity. It is imperative that the international community should immediately stop the violence and bring about a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and bring an end to the desperate barbarism of Israel in Lebanon before it engulfs the region and the world.
Highlighting the fresh Israeli operation in Lebanon, Pezeshkian said that Israel's indiscriminate bombing resulted in massive civilian casualties, and Israel's aggression could not go unanswered.
The Iranian president, without taking names, blamed several countries of thwarting the efforts to end the war. He added that the consequences of conflict would be borne by countries that call themselves champions of human rights.
Naturally, blind Israeli state terrorism over the past few days in Lebanon, followed by a massive aggression with thousands of victims, cannot go unanswered. The responsibility for all consequences will be borne by those governments who have thwarted all global efforts to end this horrific catastrophe and have the audacity to call themselves champions of human rights.
Pezeshkian further accused Israel of perpetrating genocide in Gaza by attacking schools and homes. He also defended Iran's support for the Palestinians, saying that Israel was defeated in Gaza and that no amount of violence can restore its myth of invincibility. He later said that Iran wants to safeguard its own security and sought no war with anyone.
Mentioning the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Pezeshkian said that Iran wanted peace and security for the people of Russia and Ukraine. He also batted for dialogue between the two countries, adding that there was an urgent need to end military hostilities in Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guards on Tuesday showcased drones and missiles on the streets of Tehran, warning Israel that it was ready to retaliate following the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The military equipment was displayed alongside banners, posters that read, "We will take revenge," reiterating its promised revenge for the killing of Haniyeh and IRGC commander Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a US drone strike back in 2020.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hit out at Russia while addressing a special session of the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday.
Well, he vowed not to negotiate on Moscow's terms to end the war. Zelensky launched a scathing attack on Russian President Vladimir Putin, accusing him of violating several international laws. He warned that the ongoing war with Russia can't be resolved through negotiations alone, stressing that Moscow must be pressured into peace. He also criticized Russia's calls for dialogue, calling them insincere and untrustworthy.
Russia can only be forced into peace. And that is exactly what's needed, forcing Russia into peace as the sole aggressor in this war, the sole violator of the UN Charter.
Zelensky called for unity among the participants of the summit, urging them to come together for a second peace summit aimed at ending the war. He further accused Russia of turning Iran and North Korea into de facto accomplices in the conflict.
Russia has no legitimate reason, none at all, for making Iran and North Korea de facto accomplices in its criminal war in Europe.
Ukraine said at least 3 people were killed and over 30 were injured in Kharkiv on Tuesday when a Russian guided bomb hit a civilian building. Kiev claimed that Russia fired a barrage of 8 guided bombs, 6 of which struck Kharkiv.
The Ukrainian military said it regained control of the Vovchansk aggregate plant on Tuesday. The plant served as a stronghold for Russian troops fighting in the region.
Well, the Russia-Ukraine war is now suddenly come home in Russia nearly a week after Ukrainian drone blew up an ammunition depot in Russia's Toropets town. Of course, this is not the first time that a drone attack has happened inside Russia, but this is one more.
The people are struggling to repair their homes and grappling with the shock of what hit them. The attack triggered a massive blast at the base, sending a fireball into the sky, causing multiple secondary explosions. The explosion was so powerful that it was picked up by NASA satellites, which detected heat sources over a 14 square kilometer area.
The town of Toropets, Tver region, which was attacked, is just under 400 kilometers northwest of Moscow and far away from the Ukrainian border from where the drones were launched. Now, images captured by satellite imaging company Maxar showcase the scale of destruction near the weapons store, which lay between 2 lakes about 5 kilometers from the town center. 4 days after the Ukrainian drone hit, the facility was shown in ruins on Maxar photos, displaying a large crater that stretches approximately 82 meters wide. Tree trunks devoid of leaves encircle a number of entirely destroyed storage facilities and bunkers.
Now, this attack represents a major success in Kyiv's ongoing campaign to degrade Russia's missile stockpile, which has been responsible for significant destruction across Ukraine. The arsenal in Tver reportedly housed Iskander tactical missiles, Tochka-U missile systems, anti-aircraft missiles and other critical weaponry used to bombard Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. Ukrainian drones have been hitting targets deep within Russia regularly.
On 1st of September, Ukraine targeted the Russian capital in its biggest drone attack so far, killing at least 1 and wrecking dozens of homes in the Moscow region and forcing around 50 flights to be diverted from airports around Moscow.
Now, Shivan, we reported this as well. Over the years, reports of people disappearing in China have become quite normal.
Well, Foreign Minister, Defense Minister, PLA commanders, all reported to be missing, and now a prominent economist is incommunicado.
Now, Zhu Hongpeng, an economist at one of China's top think tanks, was placed under investigation, detained, then removed from the post after he allegedly criticized China's Supreme Leader Xi Jinping. Zhu held the position of Deputy Director at the Institute of Economics within the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, or CASS, for a decade.
According to sources cited by the Wall Street Journal, Zhu made the comments in a private group chat on the WeChat mobile messaging application. Under Xi's rule, the party has implemented a harsh crackdown on dissent that has punished opponents of his leadership both inside and outside the party. Notable targets of this crackdown include prominent academicians and businessmen who have been jailed, imprisoned or pushed into exile.
Former Foreign Minister Qin Gang mysteriously disappeared from public view in the summer of 2023, demoted to low-level publishing job then. China's former Defense Minister General Wei Fenghe was away from public view for a very long time before he was expelled from the Communist Party. His successor, Li Shangfu, also mysteriously disappeared for almost 2 months, after which he was removed from his post, later expelled from the party over corruption charges. Apart from them, former editor of Global Times Hu Xinjin, thought to be close aides of President Xi, has been silenced by being ordered to stay out of political commentary for nearly 3 months.
In the midst of the growing tensions in the South China Sea region and Beijing claiming sovereignty over Taipei, China's People's Liberation Army, the PLA, has sent its general commanding the South China Sea to the United States for the first time in over 2 years.
Now, the PLA's commander of the South China Sea, General Wu Yanan, held talks with U.S. Indo-Pacific Commander Admiral Samuel Paparo during a defense conference in Hawaii last week.
In a statement on Monday, Beijing said that both sides held in-depth discussions over common issues with the goal of reaching a common consensus by the two heads of state in the meeting held last week.
The general's visit comes in more than 2 years after China cut off its military ties with the United States. This was following former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan.
Washington and Beijing have the two largest militaries in the world. Resumed their talks after Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Joe Biden decided to ease tensions in November last year.
This was followed by a meeting led by US Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Michael Chase with officials from China's Central Military Commission on the sidelines of a defense forum held in Beijing earlier this month.
According to the US Department of Defense, Washington took up several issues with Beijing in that meeting, including the latter's support for Russia's defense and the ongoing tensions with Philippines in the South China Sea. The United States is witnessing ramifications of a near-total abortion ban in the country.
A report reveals that maternal mortality has increased by 11% in the United States since the ban, and the most alarming figures have come from Texas.
The report reveals that Texas saw over 56% increase in maternal mortality. Abortion ban in the desert state has been the biggest reason of this alarming change. The maternal mortality rate among white women in Texas doubled from 20 to 39 deaths per 100,000 live births. Among black women, the rate spiked from around 32 to almost 44 per 100,000 live births.
Texas is likely a harbinger of what's to come in the other U.S. states. In the aftermath of the abortion ban, access to life-saving medical care has become increasingly limited, especially for communities of color.
Recent reports have revealed that 2 confirmed maternal deaths in Georgia. This soon after their 6-week abortion ban took effect. Both were black women and mothers to young children.
The findings from Texas and Georgia serve as a chilling reminder of the potential impact of abortion bans, making it a crucial issue on the 5th of November presidential election ballot.
I know you have a lot of things going on in your life, but try not to make any big stabilize. In 36 weeks, they start to dip a little bit, and then you deliver, and they just nosedive. It's that anxiety and postpartum. You're going into early labor. Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Fine.
Doing okay?
Yeah. I can still get an epidural?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. To me, that looks consistent, you know.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. Lots more on the other side. When we come back, voting has begun for the second phase of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly polls in India. Security has been tightened across all 6 poll-bound districts in the Union territory. Notably, 3 out of the 6 districts, Riyasi, Rajouri and Poonch, have been hit with back-to-back terror attacks over the last 3 years.
The long-standing tradition of Durga Puja celebrations in Bangladesh facing a threat, according to local media reports. Members of Hindu community in some parts of the country are thinking of not holding celebrations this year after receiving letters demanding money. We'll get you all the details of this on the other side. Stay tuned.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays, 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with him, and I'm Shivan. Let's get you started with the headline tracking for you at this hour.
Voting underway in India's Jammu and Kashmir for second phase of the assembly election. Security tightened across all 6 poll-bound districts in the Union Territory.
Sri Lanka's President Kumara Dissanayake dissolves parliament, calls for a snap parliamentary election on the 14th of November.
Hezbollah announces death of commander of its rocket and missile division in Israeli strikes. Lebanese authorities say 6 people killed in the latest strikes targeting Beirut suburbs.
Nearly 500,000 people displaced in Lebanon since Israel ramped up its military campaign against Hezbollah, says Lebanese Foreign Minister. At least 569 people, including 50 children, killed so far.
US President Joe Biden meets Mohammad Yunus in New York on the sidelines of the UNGA, offers full support to interim government in Bangladesh.
La Liga champions Real Madrid hold off late comeback from Deportivo Alaves in Carlo Ancelotti's 300th match in charge.
Back to Mbappe. Can he finish? Yes, he can. It's 2-0 to Real Madrid. Kylian Mbappe. Still Rodrigo. Rodrigo with the shot and the goal. And they've done in the second half exactly what they did in the first half.
Voting has begun for the second phase of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly polls in India.
Security has been tightened across all 6 poll-bound districts in the Union Territory. Notably, 3 out of these 6 districts, that's Riyasi, Rajouri and Poonch, they've all seen back-to-back terror attacks over the last 3 years.
This phase will also cover 3 central Kashmir districts of Srinagar, Gandarbal and Budgam, and the second phase will decide the fate of 239 candidates across 26 assembly constituencies.
With prominent figures like former Chief Minister Omar Abdullah and Jammu and Kashmir BJP Chief Ravinder Raina among the key contenders.
A total of 3,502 polling stations have been set up in the poll-bound constituencies. There are more than 2.5 million eligible voters in the penultimate phase of the 3-phase assembly elections. An estimated 61.38% of the electorate cast their ballots in the first phase of polling on the 18th of September. The third phase of elections, covering the remaining 40 assembly segments, will go to polls on the 1st of October. And for more on this, our special correspondent Idris Lohan is now joining us live. Idris, thank you so much for joining us. What can you tell us about the preparations that have gone into the second phase of polling? Also, where are you right now?
Well, I'm right now at the Budgam polling booth. It's the Budgam district's main polling booth of the municipal community hall. As you can see, a huge queue outside the polling booth. We've seen from 7 o'clock only, people started coming out in big numbers. And right now also, we're seeing a lot of people coming out to cast their vote. Over 25 lakh voters will be casting their vote in the second phase of election today in the 6th district on 26 assembly constituencies. Let me tell you that the top leadership of majorly all political parties, which includes the National Conference's Umar Abdullah, who is the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Apni Party's Chief Altaf Bukhari, State President of Indian National Congress Tariq Hamid Karra, as well as the State President of the BJP Ravindra Raina. All are in the fray today in the second phase of the elections. Amid tight security, as you can see, the number of police and paramilitary forces on the ground at every polling booth, a three-tier security system in place to make sure that the security arrangements are done to the brim, and also that there is not a single event in any of the places, especially the places which are very close to the line of control and international border, because we've seen some violence taking place in the last few months in the areas very close to Rajouri, Poonch, Kishtwar belt. But this time security forces making sure that the elections happen peacefully. On the other hand, we've also got news that there is a delegation of foreign diplomats which will be arriving in Srinagar and Jammu today. They'll be going to different polling booths, especially in the Budgam district. We've been told that they'll be coming here from various countries, including United States, Australia, as well as UK. They'll be guided by 4 officials from the Ministry of External Affairs who will be taking them to various polling booths. Overall, it seems we're getting visuals from different districts as well, like Gandarbal as well as Srinagar, where people are coming out in huge numbers again. In the first phase, we saw the polling was around 60%. So this time it seems it could be more than that, because there are some areas in Budgam which have been voting even during the top of the militancy in the last few decades, and this time it seems all the previous records of that will be broken as well.
Idris, if you can quickly also give us a roundup and a better understanding of the security apparatus in place. You mentioned that there are foreign diplomats who will be arriving and will be going to several of these districts. When it comes to Riyasi, Rajouri, Poonch and of course Budgam, where you are at this point, what is the security apparatus like?
Well, Shivam, there is a 3-tier security system in place at every polling booth. If we talk about the whole security network, 300 companies of paramilitary forces have been specially brought in for only the election purposes. We are seeing the Jammu and Kashmir police, CRPF at some places. We are also seeing ITBP and other paramilitary forces taking charge of the security of the polling booths. At every polling booth, the number of police personnel and paramilitary forces surrounding is huge. This is only and only to make sure that polling is held peacefully. There are some polling booths which are in the volatile areas, as you mentioned, in the areas like Poonch, Kishtwar, Kutwa belt, which are very close to the international border, and which also saw in the last, especially in the last 6 months, there have been a lot of attacks and ambushes that have taken place in those areas. Those special polling booths are one of the major concerns. But in the first phase of the election, there was polling in those polling booths in those districts as well. It went on peacefully, and this time also the focus on these areas which are very close to the line of control, and security forces making sure that a foolproof security system in place in every polling booth, so that the second phase of polling is passes off peacefully as well.
All right. Well, Idris, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We'll, of course, continue to track all developments closely with you there. All right, let's shift our focus now. The long-standing tradition of Durga Puja celebrations in Bangladesh currently under threat.
According to local media reports, members of the Hindu community in certain parts of Bangladesh are thinking of not holding celebrations this year altogether. This is due to the letters that they've received threatening them and demanding money for it.
Now, reports have said that leaders of several Durga Puja celebration committees, they've received anonymous letters demanding a toll to celebrate the festival. As per the Daily Star, the committees were asked to cough up 5 lakh taka, that's about $4,200.
According to the report, several Hindu temples located in the Dakop area of Khulna received such letters warning that they won't be allowed to celebrate Durga Puja if the toll is not paid. The leaders of the puja committees were reportedly warned of severe consequences if they do not pay up the sum. At least 4 temple representatives have filed complaints with the police.
The leaders of the community have raised concerns over receiving such letters. Quoting one of the leaders, the report said that several members of the Hindu community have expressed their desire to not hold celebrations this year at all.
A former Singaporean cabinet minister has pleaded guilty to charges of receiving illegal gifts in what is being seen as the first ministerial criminal trial in Asia in nearly half a century.
Former Transport Minister Iswaran pleaded guilty to 1 count of obstructing justice and 4 of accepting gifts from people with whom he had official business. The court set October 3rd for sentencing. Here's more in our next report.
Singapore's former Transport Minister pleaded guilty on Tuesday to accepting gifts while in office in a rare graft case that has gripped the Asian financial hub. The case charges Subramaniam Iswaran, who goes by S. Iswaran, with receiving favours including tickets to English Premier League soccer matches and the Singapore Formula One Grand Prix. Iswaran, who joined the cabinet in 2006, is the first full minister to be tried in court on graft charges in the wealthy city-state, which prides itself on having a well-paid and efficient bureaucracy, as well as strong governance. The 62-year-old was arrested in July last year, accused of taking kickbacks worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from property tycoon Ong Beng Seng and another businessman. Iswaran was advisor to the Grand Prix steering committee, while Ong owns the rights to the race. Ong has not been charged with any offence. Iswaran had rejected the allegations when he resigned from the cabinet. In court, he pleaded guilty to accepting gifts as a public servant, as well as to obstructing justice, instead of charges that include corruption. In a surprise move, the prosecution dropped the vast majority of charges against Iswaran, and it asked for a sentence of up to 7 months in prison, according to Channel News Asia. That's much lighter than the maximum of 7 years and fines for obstructing justice, or the 2 years and fines for accepting gifts. The news outlet reported that Iswaran will be sentenced on October 3rd. The last corruption case involving a Singaporean minister investigated for allegedly accepting bribes was in 1986, but the man died before he could be charged in court. According to Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, Singapore was among the world's top 5 least corrupt countries last year.
All right, next up, let's take a look at what's happening in technology, starting with Dagestan. A southern republic of Russia is pushing for stricter control over cryptocurrency miners due to their excessive power consumption. Local authorities have reported that illegal mining operations, often hidden underground, are causing frequent power outages. Cryptocurrency mining, which requires constant operation of specialized hardware, has drawn global concern because of its high electricity usage. Recently, a fire at a power substation in Dagestan's capital was linked to the increased energy demand from these miners. New cryptocurrency mining laws signed by President Vladimir Putin are set to take effect on the 1st of November. Under the new regulations, companies will be registered by the Finance Ministry, while individual miners will need to submit certain details to Russia's financial monitoring body.
According to reports, Facebook owner Meta Platforms have secured deals with actors including Judi Dench, Kristen Bell and John Cena to give voice to its Meta AI chatbot. The new audio feature will offer users the option to select a voice from Meta's ChatGPT-like digital assistant from a list of 5 celebrities as well as several generic voice options. The social media giant is set to announce the audio capabilities at its annual Connect conference. Meta is also expected to unveil the first version of its augmented reality glasses to Connect this year. Reports suggest that celebrity voices will be launched across all Meta apps including Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp.
Lina Khan, the US FTC commissioner, has put out a rather alarming warning. Khan has said that in a few years, there is a possibility that airlines might use AI to find out whether you are attending a funeral and charge more according to that. Well, Khan added that AI's growth could lead to more instances of varying prices based on who you are and your financial standing. She gave an example of a person with nut allergies being charged more for granola bars without nuts. Khan said the FTC is looking into AI's potential role in increasing the risk of price discrimination.
Moving on, the escalating trade war between the United States and China, it's taken a new turn.
The Biden administration has proposed significant restrictions on Chinese vehicle technology imports. And as this battle intensifies, the global electric vehicle market faces unprecedented challenges. Take a look at this next report for more details.
The ongoing trade war between the United States and China has escalated significantly, impacting various sectors, particularly the automotive industry. Recent regulatory proposals by the Biden administration aim to restrict the import of Chinese vehicle technology, citing national security concerns. This move comes amid a backdrop of increasing tariffs on Chinese imports, reflecting a broader strategy to combat perceived economic threats from China. As tensions rise, US officials emphasize the need to protect domestic manufacturers from competition that could jeopardize their market position. However, the effectiveness of these measures is now being tested as the global electric vehicle market faces significant headwinds. As the electric vehicle market evolves, a noticeable slowdown in sales has emerged, presenting challenges for both Western and Chinese manufacturers. In China, the once booming demand for electric vehicles is now showing signs of cooling, with passenger vehicle sales experiencing declines over recent months. This slowdown has prompted local manufacturers to engage in aggressive price wars, driving down costs in an effort to maintain market share. This has also led to a steady rise in the share of domestic manufacturers in China's car market over the past 2 years. While this may benefit consumers in the short term, it raises concerns about profitability for automakers and the sustainability of their operations amid rising competition. The intensifying price wars in China are not only reshaping the domestic market, but are also sending shockwaves through the global automotive landscape. As local brands like BYD and Geely offer increasingly affordable electric vehicles, traditional automakers are struggling to keep pace. The gap in production costs has widened, fueled by China's advanced supply chains and government subsidies. Meanwhile, Western manufacturers, facing high energy costs and shifting consumer preferences, are finding it increasingly difficult to compete. This interplay between the trade war, slowing EV sales, and aggressive pricing strategies reflects a complex landscape for automakers to navigate. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
And India's female workforce is rising steadily, signaling a potential shift in the labour dynamics in the country.
The latest periodic labour force survey highlights not just steady unemployment rates, but also the increasing participation of women in the workforce. While the numbers suggest stability, the underlying story is one of progress and resilience. Women across India are breaking through traditional barriers, entering sectors once dominated by men, and redefining what it means to be part of the labour force.
This rise is not just a statistic, it's a symbol of the changing aspirations and opportunities for women in a country where gender disparity in employment, it's long been an issue. The growth of female labour participation comes at a critical time for India, which is aiming to harness the potential for its growing population and address the challenges of economic development. With more women entering the workforce, India stands to benefit from a diverse pool of talent and perspectives which can drive innovation and inclusivity in the workforce.
Globally, as economies strive for recovery and expansion, India's rising female workforce offers a powerful narrative of progress, one where women are increasingly taking charge of their futures and contributing to their country's growth. The trends in India serve as a reminder that empowering women in the workforce is not just about closing gender gaps, but unlocking the full potential of a nation's population.
All right, time for updates from now the world of football. Defending champions Real Madrid fended off a late comeback from Deportivo Alaves, and Carlo Ancelotti's 300th match in charge. Lucas Vazquez gave the La Liga champions the lead inside 57 seconds. Kylian Mbappe